started. Okay, so I started the recording. Sean, you took the energy to kick this off. Do you want to say a couple of words here as far as a suggested approach for what we might want to be trying to accomplish today, and then what we what has to happen? What do we need to be doing as far as steps? And this is just, you know, putting an idea out there, and then everybody here, I'm hoping you'll kick in. We're a very small group, so I'm hoping everybody will be active in discussing this. Sean.
Yeah, although I'd like to start figuring out which tasks and figuring out who's going to make sure that those are going to get done on time, I think we need to put that aside for just a brief period of time and make sure, especially during this meeting, that we're all on the same page when it comes to the document that was sent and all aspects of this initiative. So I think once we're on the same page in regards to that, then we'll be able to move forward more efficiently rather than having to continually make sure that we all know everything. So I think that would be the best approach.
Yeah, thank you. I think here, this is actually a fairly simple project when we look at some of the others that we're talking about here. I think it's important to understand, though, that while the idea of an international debate competition is good in its own right, and hopefully this will become an annual thing that we do every year, and we grow it so that you know, we might be aiming for that first year to be able to have around 4,000 teams, more than 4,000 teams participating. We're hoping that within a couple of years, we're going to be 35,000 teams participating. Every time we add a level in a tournament, because the idea is a tournament. You start off with a whole bunch of teams competing at the local level, and then the winners at each of those local levels go on to the next level, a regional level, let's say, and then they compete, and then the winners of the regionals go up to the semifinals, and then the winners of the semifinals to the finals, and then you got your top winners. But if we add just one more layer to that, it really is growing exponentially, the numbers. And once you've got that network base out there around the world and people get to see what's going on, it's not that hard to imagine, oh, you just add a layer underneath the that what we thought was the local level for the first year becomes the regional level, and we add another level below that that's local. So if our goal here in that first year is to try to get almost every Rotary district to host one local competition round, and then the next year there's a competition to see who gets to participate in the district round. So that's the idea. But perhaps here, more importantly, is recognizing, though, why are we looking to do this particular thing? And that is because we have in mind our Dare to Be Great challenge competition, where we're hoping to offer $1 million to whatever team of young people can come up with the most outrageously audacious solution ideas to major world problems. A competition along the lines of the Hult Prize and a number of others out there that are doing prizes like that. But we realize if we were to go out and say to local Rotary clubs, who's willing to host or organize a 2 to 3 month long competition and have to figure out how you're going to get all the videos together and how you're going to get things out to the juries and all of that. That's a very daunting and very intimidating challenge. And a lot of clubs are going to say, I can't even get my head wrapped around what it would take to do that. So the idea here is that we're saying, oh, if we can get these Rotary clubs used to this idea that they get a kit that tells them how to run a local competition, and they look at it and they say, okay, well, you know, I can see I can see all the pieces, how it goes A to Z. Their confidence level in their ability to host such competitions goes up. And now the idea of just going and saying, okay, well, we have our international debate round, but we also have another competition we have out there that is a little bit bigger. That's half of it. The other half is that how do you go out there and reach all the schools all over the world to tell them about such a competition? There's so much noise out there of people that are hosting various things. A debate club or a debate is something that so many schools around the world are already familiar with. So if they see here, oh, here's a debate competition round, oh, it's got $100,000 prize. That should be enough to catch a little bit of attention out there. That if we have local Rotary clubs reaching out to the schools in their area, and we've got, let's say, 85 clubs on the average district, and we're saying, we want you to find 8 schools that want to participate in that first round, that shouldn't be that difficult. But now what we've got is, and especially if we encourage and provide the media kits for each local competition to make sure the media in their district area is aware that this is happening within their district, that the schools, they then know us. And so they'll be more receptive when they hear, oh, here's another competition round to that. Wow, it's got $1 million prize. That will get a much greater reception. And so it would be that much easier for us to find 8 schools within a district that would do the first round. And then once we do the first round and get that media attention going on that, in a subsequent year to go and say, well, we're going to offer a competition level, even on that Dare to Be Great challenge, to see who will qualify to go into the district competition. And so that's a piece of strategy behind what we're looking at here, is that we want to, yes, do the debate for its own right, because that's encouraging thinking, but we also want to do it to be able to build out that network of partner organizations that are comfortable running such local competitions. And we want to build out that reputation or that access to the schools, because they're already familiar with who we are. So before going any further on that, I'd like to ask any comments or thoughts to this strategic aspect of what we're talking about.
I have a question. So the plan is to start with only in the US.
No. This we want to start right from the beginning. And I need to back up a step here, and I need to introduce Naman and Shivam here from India, who ran the competition here last November. And I don't know how many teams, because you did some selection rounds in India beforehand. We had from our side, our club sponsored, I think here probably about a dozen teams that competed, in some cases in selection rounds for their countries. And then we ended up with 7 countries teams that we did. But I know you guys did in India, you had at least one major round to select the finalists that went into the competition from India. So Naman and Shivam, these are 2 of the key folks that did this here last year. And I don't know how many years altogether. I know your club, I think it's 20 years you've been doing this, obviously not you guys, but the idea here is that this would be a partnership. We would do this jointly here. So we're really trying to take what Naman and Shivam and your clubs have built up and just putting it on steroids, if you would, to get a much greater audience. So Naman and Shivam, perhaps you might just want to say a couple of words about the competition here that you did last year, and your thoughts here on the idea now of multiplying that to districts all around the world.
Yeah, so I'll just lay out. Shivam is closer to it. Shivam has been involved in this for a longer period than I have been. So yes, this was the first time we went international, and that's as you say, as the old saying goes, adversities bring opportunities. This was a perfect case where, because of the pandemic, we went virtual for the first time, while we've been having in-person the traditional style debates all along for the last 17, 18 years. This time it was for the first time we had it virtually, and that's when we decided to expand its wings and go international. So I think we had about 17 countries participate, 15 or 16 countries that participated, and within our own country, India, we had multiple rounds, and we had more than 40 teams, I think, which went through this process. So Shivam, if I'll pass on the mic to you for granular details.
Yeah, Naman. I mean, yes. So yes, in the international round, we had around 15 countries, and then there were three countries that represented India in the international round. But again, going back, there were multiple rounds to select those top teams from India. Where if we go into the granular details, then probably there were more than maybe 80 or 90 teams comprising of the Rotaract districts of India and the different institutional colleges of India. So in total, there were 90 or more teams, which basically drilled down to the Indian national round with 13 teams. And then we went ahead with the top three and 15 more countries joining in the international round. So yeah, I mean, was a great experience, was a great learning experience for us managing such an event. Also, as Naman said, this was the year when we all had to go virtual. We had no other way. So we never knew that anything of this sort can actually be basically conducted on a virtual platform. So we had to go in detail search of what all functionalities can we use when we actually organize such events. And actually, at the end of the whole process, we have realized it's not difficult at all. Zoom is, I mean, there are more platforms out there, but Zoom is very friendly in these terms. Debates, and I mean there's the small things that you require for conducting a debate. The Zoom functionality supports all. So it's a great platform. It's very easily manageable is what we sort of realized at the end of the debate. I heard what Bill said about the competition, and it looks like great idea. $1 million is a huge amount. Just one thing first that I basically wanted to ask on the whole process was, uh, so like our debate was more of about the conventional Oxford style debate, which give the debaters maybe around 3 to 4 minutes to speak about a topic, research about a topic, and then debate about it. And then maybe if someone wants to ask you a question, you answer the question, you make your points more clear through the form of interjections. But when $1 million are at stake, and as Bill also mentioned, we'll be searching for solutions to problems. So are we going with the same conventional Oxford style format, or I mean, just a name that came to my mind. Are we going with a Shark Tank format? I mean, in which we actually put across a world crisis and we are seeking solutions, seeking innovative solutions that people may bring out
Yeah.
of their intellect and their thinking.
Stephen,
So,
just if I could interrupt just for a second, just to clarify, these are two totally separate initiatives here. So the one initiative here is to propagate the idea of the debate using your Oxford style debate. So basically just what you did, because of, as you said, it's very simple. We've done 2 years of pilots now with our Dare to Be Great challenge competition. This year was, or last year was the first year we did it virtually. we had a huge learning curve on doing these, obviously, but it's a very, very complicated and time consuming process to do those. So I would let's just focus on here on the debate one, which is really taking exactly what you did. I mean, obviously you've got lessons learned that you want to bring, plug in, great. But if we could just accomplish what you accomplished, but do it here with 500 plus local competition rounds leading up, and that one would only be 100,000. And 100,000, it might sound like, well, 100,000 has a big media impact effect that people go, oh wow, 100,000 for what we do in our school competitions type of thing. But in reality here, if we can get 4,000 teams plus participating, and there's a registration fee of $25, which I don't think, especially if you've got local Rotary clubs sponsoring teams from their local schools, that $25 times 4,000 is $100,000, which is what we would then be able to provide. So yes, so just wanted to clarify that difference, that this we want to keep the debate competition round be the debate competition round, and then we'll just leverage that network to be able to offer an additional competition initiative, and push it out through that same network.
Okay, I mean, great, Bill. I mean, yes, sounds like a plan. And yeah, that is something that I wanted to understand because, yeah, I mean, something that we took out of our debate was, so I mean, when we go around topics from the world crisis or the current situation, there is so much material out there in the internet that people just search around, write it on their paper, and actually, it's very difficult for us to identify if they are reading it on a virtual platform. So I mean, that's why I try to bifurcate it in terms of innovative solutions and the debating aspect, because
Right.
when we talk about the debating aspect, it can actually be it can actually also be reading from your paper, your system, they make out of it. But still, I mean, still actually, I mean, just motivating them to research about a topic is itself something that we are trying to focus here, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
That
and just as yes, Naman.
Sorry, Bill. Yeah, just to the point on even if people are reading out and all, but they have about 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes. That's the time they have. So if someone's reading out, it's clearly visible because yeah, they have their videos on and the way they articulate the topic. So it's pretty. We don't mind that also because if they're just flipping some papers. But I think virtually it may that's the only way to do it because otherwise cost becomes prohibitive.
Yes, 100%, and that's what we learned, because we had decided to go virtual with our Dare to Be Great challenge even before the pandemic started, and that was because in the year prior to that we said let's do it physically. And when you do it physically, for schools to participate, all of a sudden their costs go way up. The costs for a venue go up. There's just it's just very complicated. And then when we think about saying, okay, we want 500 people to run a local competition like that, and every one of them's got to organize a venue, and they all the schools have got to figure out how you're going to get there. And it's one thing if you're doing it in urban areas, but if you're imagine you're in DR Congo in Africa, the thought of schools being able to physically get to a single location to compete, and especially if you say, oh, now let's go up to the regional level. And you're talking about maybe participants from several countries managing to get together, the costs are really starting to mount. So we had looked at virtual. As far as whether they're reading or not, it's a little bit like, okay, how much of this is really, are you a good debater, or have you done good research? Have you done, because there's a wealth of that information out there, but you've got to figure out, how do I condense all that information down into 3 to 5 minutes of good arguments? And so I think here we shouldn't necessarily care so much. If you think about I used to be in Toastmasters, and and Toastmasters is always talking about the delivery, the delivery, the delivery. But in reality here, so much more of it is what's the message. And I
Yeah.
think here, if we can concentrate here and get people to focus on the message, getting their message out there, whether in the end of the day they read it or don't read it or how they communicate it, I would say is of secondary importance to what that message is. And then when you get to the questions, the Q&A part of it there, where they've now got to expand upon one aspect or another, and you're able to see, gee whiz, the question went beyond what they had on a piece of paper. Are they stuck, or are they able to respond because they really know their topic and their position? So I think I think here we shouldn't necessarily worry about that level of detail. The main piece we want to focus on is getting out the message. And I would go as far as we participate in a lot of international conferences. And one of the things we've started doing is saying, why do you necessarily have to participate live? Especially for that initial 3 to 5 minutes of presentation, why don't you pre-record that so that if we've got teams coming in from areas of the world where it's hard to have 5 minutes of good connectivity. We saw that even in November there, that there were problems with some teams to have that. So if they were able to put that initial 5 minutes or 4 minutes message and pre-record it and send the recording, it's simplifying their bandwidth challenges, the connectivity, and we make sure we get a good competition round for that. So, and then, the live piece can be live, but now it doesn't have to be as long. So even if you're from those countries where the live Zoom time is very, very expensive. I know in some of the countries in Africa here, they literally pay by the megabit, and Zoom takes about 4 megabits for a minute or something like that. It's very expensive for them to stay on the line here for an hour or 2 hours plus. So we can find ways to mitigate some of that stuff. But again,
Right.
here for the rest of you, it should provide for you great confidence in what we're talking about. That we've got partners here that have done this, and we need to just figure out how to put that how-to knowledge and sort of package that in a little package so we can provide a step-by-step guide out to these districts all around the world. This is how you promote, this is how you run, this is how you do the technology, every single aspect of what it takes to do that local competition round, make that available. And for most of the people that within a district that's hosting something like this, for most of those people, they're only involved in a couple of hours someday in the round they're doing. And if we can provide them templates, posters, flyers, all the template material where they just put in the date and time for their local rounds and the links, and they have templates for the communications that will go out to their schools, or the communications that they would get all the Rotary clubs in their district to be able to go and pass those messages on out to the local schools. And I don't know how many, especially if we're going to open it to both secondary and schools and universities. Just in our district here in New Jersey, we have over 350 secondary schools just within our one district. And to say we're looking for 8 participants, this is why I say, okay, the first year we may look for 8, but it's not hard to imagine that we could get 64 in the second year and run 8 local competitions within our district to find the 8 teams that would then compete at the district level. So that's the overall. Now, as far, yes.
Yeah, Bill. I mean, another thing that I just wanted to discuss about, Since I mean, just by hearing what you're saying, the scope is really, really big, and basically it's a global event. We are sort of trying to cover most of the districts all across the globe. So one thing that we had to do in our debate was, if I talk about the 50 to 60 colleges of India, or if I talk about the 35 Rotaract districts of India, there was one representative from our club who was somehow linked maybe to 10 or 15 of them on a regular basis. Now we are talking global. We are talking about some districts, as you said, having 300 secondary schools and a lot of universities. In some districts are really, really big. So, do we have the team who can really be in touch with these districts, who can act? I mean, because at some point in time, even if we provide them the templates of how to conduct a debate, they will need some help, and our team has to be there for their rescue all the time.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the thing. I think we need to really, really first determine the scope, and then actually get the team working and divide it accordingly.
Yeah. That's a very good point, and this is super important. In addition to sending out, keep in mind we're knocking on the doors of districts and clubs and saying, hey, who wants to run the competition within your district? And it may be maybe 2 or 3 clubs might say, oh, we'll do this jointly, but to up that confidence level, we have to provide basically a consultative support service to them. Number one, to just check that they haven't fallen asleep. They said, yeah, I'm going to participate, but then they forgot about everything. So we have to make sure they're going through their preparatory steps at the right times to fit into the overall sequence there. So that's really important. So today, though, the thought, what's the sequence of steps we have to go through to do the preparation to pull something like this off? And I'm going to throw out here a big challenge, and that is that I would like to see us, if we can, do the first of these international rounds this coming April, by April. And that's not very long at all, but it's not that complicated a thing, if you would. So we will need, at some point, we're going to need a team a subcommittee, if you would, that is the communication subcommittee, that is reaching out to all the districts, that's reaching out to all the clubs, that's going to Rotary International and saying, hey, let's help us get the word out, help us encourage people. So we need a subcommittee working on that. We need the subcommittee of you guys that have done this before, working on saying, okay, here's the how-to guide. Here's here's how we did it, and putting that piece of it together. We need the group that's working on developing the flyers and developing the communication templates that is going to go out to all the schools. So we have to make it here the path of least resistance for all those Rotary clubs out there to promote their district's version of that local competition round. We have to have a team that's working out how are we bringing all the monies together and having them in a place so we find out that when we have to go and hand out prize money, we don't run into problems here because some countries are more restrictive in international money transfers than others, let's say. So we have all those different things that have to be done. What Sean mentioned in the beginning, the idea of the sequence, I think, is one, nail down exactly here how we anticipate this working, so that everybody really has that same understanding. Number two, once we have that, we have to sit down and say, what are all the things that have to be done? All those promotional things, all the administrative pieces, getting it out, all the building of the alliances with the other parties that we want to help us. So we have to get that to-do list, if you would, that master to-do list. Then we've got to go and say, okay, who's going to be working on which piece of that to get that all to happen. And then we're able to be in that implementation mode of carrying out the plan, if you would. So we have those steps. And I think here, I posted a couple of papers out there. They're very redundant and disjoint because they're just basically a flow of consciousness that happened with myself and Naman and others, where we just sort of thought aloud in chat mode here on how this could work. And I debated here, should I go and make all these into a nice paper that just describes, broken down in the right thing. Here's the way it would work and so forth. And I decided against that. And the reason is I've got some experience in building companies, building international companies, which are alliances of a lot of other companies. And one of my experiences, if you come into a meeting and you put a very polished presentation on the table, people assume everything's good and they don't even read it. They basically judge it based on its appearance and on the weight. They don't get involved. So I found here a lot of times, if you're trying to get true partnerships going and getting people engaged, it's better if you can give them almost like a napkin with some sketches on it here of roughly how it might work, because you're engaging their thinking. Then they're looking at it. It's not finished. They have an opportunity to get their voice and their thoughts to be part of that, and they become true partners. So for that reason here, there's 4 papers out there. And when you read those 4 papers, you sort of say, gee, didn't I just read this in the other paper? And it wasn't totally intentional to do that, but it was intentional to not take that to that next step. Because what I would like to see here is that the committee, and we have a number of people that wanted to be here today that are not here, that the first step here is that we create a shared document, and all of the committee members jointly go take all the bits and pieces we've got there, raise questions, add thoughts to that matter, and we develop that paper that really describes what this is all about, why we're looking to do it, and the rough outline of how it would work. And that's the first thing. And then that becomes the Bible. Once everybody's gotten their 2 cents into that, and then we do have a polish, but it's a polish that is the joint product of everybody's efforts. And it's not a huge problem to do that because it's not a very complicated project. And then we sit down and have the meeting and another paper where everybody joins in and says, okay, what are all the things we got to do? And we make that paper here of, hey, these are the different things that have to be done. Here's how we'll cluster those into subcommittees, if you would, or project sub-teams that will take care of each of the different things that has to be accomplished. And so that will then become the next round of paper. And then the next round after that is starting to put names to, okay, who's going to be responsible for which pieces of all of this, and who's going to be in an oversight role to make sure that the people that are responsible for each of the pieces are actually doing it and getting them done on time. So that's what I'm seeing here as the general approach. And I guess the question is here, how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah. Bill, I mean, absolutely. I mean, whatever you said is actually how we also proceeded with our national and international debate. Um, but the very, very first thing, I mean, in that process, and after that, everything will be easy. I'm very, very sure. The very first thing that we did when we thought of the debate that we conducted is to determine the scope, to get the complete database of how many districts, how many Rotary clubs, how many interact clubs, how many schools. Once you have that, then you can definitely make a tentative timeline. And once you have that, everything will be sorted. All the teams will be sorted. The whole framework will be sorted. I think the very first thing that we on this project should be focusing on is to get the complete database.
Mhm.
All, I mean, every person we are going to reach out to. I mean, not in the terms of the contact details, but at least the counts,
Yeah.
how many districts and all that stuff.
I think here I think that should be uh, perhaps one of the sub teams, the team that's going to be in charge of the reach out. That would be sort of tasks that they would have to do. And look, I mean, it's not hard to go and get the list of all the districts, and we can go literally. We can even go through zones to get to those. We can reach out here. I know John Hugo has told me in the past here, we can count on his support on reaching out to districts. I think here there are vehicles that can definitely help us. And that would be, as I say, some team, they're responsible for that whole reach out and for determining who the audiences are. But the idea of getting that first paper is we can't even approach a district saying, would you want to participate, unless we can go and put in front of them the description of what it is we're talking about. And, you know, when we're talking with you guys, or we're talking among ourselves that have been involved in the Dare to Be Great competitions, you know, we can say a few words and we know what we're talking about. But if we go out there and approach a district that has no idea who we are, we've got to find a way to very succinctly, somebody's got to really give thought as to how do you communicate with people who don't know you. Now, the good side of that is that there's roughly 85 clubs, if we count Rotaract and Rotary, about 85 clubs on average in a district. That means we got 85 chances to find one that is saying, hey, I like this idea. And if we can go out there and start off, and maybe our strategy is, let's find, you guys have already worked with all the districts in India and the Rotaract clubs there, let's say. So we can maybe put a little video together where people speak about their experiences. And so that becomes the way of introducing. But I think the very first step here is just within our own club and the support network of those that would be involved in this committee. Because this will evolve into what I'll call a steering committee to guide this whole process. We have to make sure that everybody could stand up and describe what we're doing and have the same description. And that's, you know, not easy, because it's very easy to assume, oh yeah, this is so simple, everybody understands. But when it gets down to the detail, I know just saying, oh, we're going to do $100,000. And if people go and say, wow, who's the donor? You know, or so what do you mean donor? No, everybody that wants to participate, there's a $25 registration fee, and 25 times 4,000 plus is $100,000. So, and then, you know, the question is, okay, how does that get divvied up so that you've got some prizes at that local competition level, and you got some prizes at the regional level, and so on. So, you know, what is that concept? How would that work? People have to share that common understanding, if you would. So that's why I'm thinking the very first step is, and it should be a short effort, because I'm experiencing in other projects here, the longer you give just means that's that much more time people can procrastinate. And if people are procrastinating a lot, they maybe forget to come back for that last 10% and do the job. So, you know, by coming out and providing a short time frame of let's say 3-4 days to go and get that first paper put together, that the odds are greater that more people will participate in that, doing that. What is everybody's thoughts now? Leah, Jerica, Sean, Omer, you guys have been very quiet here. Let's get your voices out into this as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that we have been missing is definitive timelines due to us, you know, not really having that acquisition of data, and also us, you know, being on on the same page for shared information so that we can all gain an overall understanding for the next action items. Sean, I just want to pose a question to you as far as, the next steps that Bill has talked about. What do you feel are the most important components to building out that framework? Besides what you mentioned, for the first thing we need to do as far as the data acquisition, what would be your most significant?
I think there would be a lot of benefit in having a smaller time frame and getting this first paper done. But I think in addition to that, I think we need to be very efficient with how we allocate our time, because although we can all work on this paper, we have a team drive. I think that's something we should all make sure that we're doing. We need to continue enforcing that, 3 to 4 days for each sort of like little task, so we can make sure that everything gets done in a certain period of time, and make sure that we have people there saying, this thing needs to be done. Let's make sure that that's getting done. Let's contact people that are doing this to make sure that's getting done so we can move everything along. That seems to be a trivial thing, but I think it's going to be very important in the long run.
Great, thank you.
Leah, Omar, you want to add anything?
Yeah, what I would propose actually would be as a plan to start doing that to-do list that you were saying, maybe in a shared document where everyone could just put their input into it. And at the same time, while we do that, as Shivam was saying, getting the idea of the scope, because we have two elements here that we can and should use, which are people who already have the experience and the contacts, and we are an international club, so we have a wider scope than many other Rotaries or other clubs overall, because for example, I'm in Europe, you're in America, so we can reach different countries or different districts or different schools, and I think we should use that. And since that takes more time and it's actually very important, I would say start doing that while we do the to-do list, and once we have the to-do list, assign the different committees and the roles for each person. That would be what I would propose.
I agree as well with everyone who was speaking, but I as well stress on the fact that we should put goals and a time frame for each goal. For example, the UN, the African Union, all these huge organizations, NGOs, etc. They put goals and time frames. For example, 2030, 20 whatever, whatnot. It creates this sense of direction and this sense of motivation between the team and the people working with us. I feel personally with this initiative that there is a plan, we have the facilities and the scope, but I cannot feel a sense of direction. Where are we going? How are we going right now? This is, from my opinion, this is the only problem we are facing right now.
I think here a couple of things here. One of them is, as Leah pointed out, if we just look at this call, Leah's in Europe, Omar's in the Middle East, and Naman and Shivam are in India. So, we're seeing here, we're covering a fair chunk of the world. And I've gotten some messages here this morning that several that were going to join us from Africa have been unable to get connected here. So, actually here, there's a double aspect to this. One aspect is that I have to back up a step. I mentioned I built a fairly substantial multinational database company here in a previous lifetime. And one of the things I found, I built that by creating a partnership of the biggest IT companies in each of their respective countries throughout Europe. And I did this in a very short time. And why did those huge companies, some of them with hundreds of thousands of employees, why are they going to listen to this guy from this little tiny company in the United States here and give up half of their national markets in the microcomputer field to this little tiny company there? And it's because we gave them a story that they could take out to all their audiences that enabled them to get the attention, because it was a hot thing to have back in the 1980s, to have a mainframe database running on microcomputers. And so there's two aspects to this. One that I just thought of as Leah was talking is the fact is we reach out to all the districts, Rotary districts around the world. I think we're going to be able to put together an incredibly compelling package. We're making a path of least resistance for Rotary clubs to build up their reputations in their local communities, which is something here that Rotary clubs are always looking for. So it gets them to realize also what we are doing, and gives us an opportunity to expand, because in our Rotary club, because it's an EClub, and because we go and allow Rotarians anywhere in the world to be, in addition to members of their own clubs, they can be associate members in our club, and all those members are treated the same. In other words, we're looking for the brain power, if you would, and the ideas, and how we can mutually support those. So it's going to be an opportunity here that we do have people in countries on all the continents. The only place we don't right now is Australia, but we've got a pretty broad network. Maybe Latin America is a little weak, but we have Argentina, we have Mexico, we've got some contacts in Brazil and Chile. So we'll look to expand those. So we've got some people on the ground that can help reach out, but we also have to go and figure out, how do we leverage Rotary International? How do we go here and just simply reach out to the district? How do we leverage things like the Rotarian magazine? I've got some people, the contacts there, that are always asking me, hey, can you give us a story about what you're doing there? And so I think but that should be a subcommittee. That should be a group that's what they say, that's my job. That's my piece of the task, is how do I support our network that we've got already in getting that message out to all the people we want to get out. Now, as far as scope goes, we have this philosophy to set your goals based on what's needed and not what you think you can do. So what we've sort of put down on a paper, and it's only there, it's a suggestion, is each competition round is 8 teams, okay? 8 teams, so that we're able to, within a 2-hour window, you're able to do a round, and then each conference that we do. So each 8 local competition rounds will have a winner that goes on up to the regional, and then 8 different teams participated each regional. So we would have 512 local competitions and out of 535 districts. We would have 64 regionals that would lead to 8 semifinal competitions that would lead to 1 finals. And everything is in terms of 8s, so you can multiply it out. So that gives us our scope. If we agree, if everybody thinks that's a reasonable numbers, that gives us our scope factor. And it's just a matter here that one of our subgroups is going to have to figure out, okay, how do I populate those 512 competition rounds and 4,096 local competing schools? Does that answer those questions regarding scope?
Yes.
One thing that I want to confirm here is, so we are talking about 512 local winners who will be representing each district, right?
The 512, yeah, the winners of each of those districts would then go to a regional here, and obviously we'd have to recruit who's going to run that regional round. So we would have 64 regional competitions then, yes, but 512 locals.
Yeah, but I mean, for each district, again, they will be having some competition to decide on that one team.
Correct.
Again, this is a double fold process. I mean, because they won't. I mean, it's not that our work will start only when they come up with that one team which will represent their district, but actually, when they're actually doing an inter-district competition within their own district, they will ask for our help at that time as well.
That's what I was referring to. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, the internet and the virtual, what it does is gives us a huge leverage to be able to go, and we create the package once. And this year we want to go out there and we want to encourage 512 local competitions, if you would, but that just means there's 512 copies made of that how-to plan. And in the next year, whether it's next year or the year after that, we want to be moving towards the idea that there would be 4,096 competitions, because within each district, they may need 2 levels. Because if you're looking at hundreds of schools, potentially, people are not going to say, gee, we can only allow the first 8 that knock on the door and say, I want to compete. What about all the other hundreds of schools? So once we get the reputation going, then within each district, those districts that feel ready for it, hey, build out a layer underneath you, and we can allow that many more. But that's subsequent years down the road. For right now, the goal would be to try to get 512 districts to each have a competition round, and we give them the whole how-to kit.
So yeah, Bill. I mean, so again, I mean, on that aspect, so what happened with our competition was like we tried to reach out to 40 Rotaract districts. Again, when we reached out to them, we gave them an option that uh, either conduct a proper round in your own district and come up with that one team, or it will be the responsibility of the district governor or the district Rotaract representative to select that one team on their own. But preferably, please conduct a round in your district, because it will basically inhibit the chances of someone coming up, okay, I didn't get a chance to participate,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
someone just selected.
exactly. And it wouldn't surprise me if even with a short fuse, because we're looking at April, that you're going to find a district here or there that says we want to have a preliminary round to select who goes into our. And you know what? Hey, so you just go to the internet site that we've got and you just copy the how-to guide multiple times. So, we can have that kind of flexibility. I think that's working fine. And what happens if we don't get to 512 competing competitions the first year? That's our goal. And we set out to do that. And who knows, it could be, we saw here that following the elections in Uganda last a couple of weeks ago, that when the government, it was a contested election, they said it was a lot of fraud and whatnot, and they just shut the internet down for the whole country, and it was off for days. So those things are gonna happen, and I don't think that just means maybe at that point some country says we weren't or some district says we were not able for this reason or that reason to conduct our local competition here, but we've agreed we would like this team to represent our district. That becomes the fallback position.
Yep. Either ways, I mean, I'm just putting it out there because we need to be ready for that fact if some districts come to us that, okay, please help me conduct my preliminary as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly. And I think the idea is that we need to recognize that we've got to have a help structure in place so that each district says, okay, here's my advisor. Now, one of our advisors that when that team we put together might say, you know what, I'm supporting 20 districts because not every district's going to need help at all, or not every day. Some districts will just take it and run, but some are going to be calling, well, what's the answer to this and what's the answer to that? And we need to, we need to be thinking here, economies of scale. How do we take the best questions, put them into the frequently asked questions here? So the next one here, before they ever have to raise the question to a human, are able to just see, oh, that's what this means, or that's how you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree on the fact that I think for the time being at this point, there would be two priorities, as what I can understand. First is to put that consolidated document in place. Whosoever asks us, what are you all about? What is this competition all about? We have the answer. We have we have the thing ready to basically publicize what we are going to do and inform them about the nitties. So that's where basically we didn't have to put a lot of effort in our competition because we've been doing it for 19 years.
Yeah.
We had the description of the competition, we had the rules and regulations, we put it in a document and we formulated it everywhere.
Right.
So that's where it happened. It went well for us. But now here, when we are targeting so many countries, we need to create a very proper consolidated document. So that's one thing that definitely this group will need to work on and have to, I mean, prioritize. And secondly, at the same time, when one team is working on that document, the other part of the team needs to work on the data acquisition,
Yeah.
which is to get all the data in place.
Exactly.
Because as soon as these two things are in place, a timeline will be ready and we will be all sorted.
Exactly. And we need a team that's working, for example, on the website, so that we're not having to go and be repeating ourselves over and over and over again to folks, that we can be directing them to a website where hopefully all the answers to whatever questions they might have are there. The details of the rules and regulations are there. The philosophy is there. The how-tos are there. The online forms for people to be able to go and request to participate, so that we make it easy for people to just register to host the competition round in their district. As you know, this is sort of ways for the data acquisition, and even here for making it possible for once through the same form and the same information, to be able to even allow schools to register their teams, to compete. So this sort of gets into when we start going into the to-dos, the information, okay, how are we going to reach everybody? That becomes, we have to come up with an answer how we're going to do that. And that results in a to-do, how we're going to communicate, how are we going to recruit the judges? What are the criteria for the judges? What are the criteria the judges should be using and evaluating? How do we come up with the themes, the topics? Because this is an opportunity for us to make it not just about the debate, but that we have topics out there that cause people to really think. I think I had mentioned one to Naman here, for example, is grassroots more of a distraction than good in improving the world? Does it do more harm or more good, the grassroots effort? And so that's the kind of thing here where in the first blush, everybody says grassroots is the key. That's the good. But, there's some arguments that can be made that it actually distracts people from doing the really effective things that need to be done. Because the assumption is that, oh, I fixed my little corner of the world here. If everybody else would just do that, wouldn't we have a great world? But I know if I was living in the Netherlands and I know the seawaters are rising, I wouldn't want to just hope that if I raise the dike in front of my house, that all my neighbors are doing the same thing, because we're all going to drown if even one doesn't. So, so it's those kind of things that will go into that to-do list. But if we're talking here, April, to be able to go and start working our way as we put those to-dos, to work our way back and say, we got to get this done by this date if we're going to stick to that, doing the month of April. As far as the competition rounds, is it reasonable to say that, okay, we are going to have, we have 4 levels of competition that we're looking around for this first time round? Is it reasonable to say here that the first weekend in April is all the local rounds get done that weekend, and then the next weekend is all the regional rounds? Or do we have to leave 2 weeks in between? you know, that we have to have some decisions on those types of things, so that we can get that timeline out there. And once the timeline is out there, that then has to drive all the thinking and the action.
As far as the timeline for getting out the document and the database, how immediate could we do that? Because that's, you know, essentially a little less than 3 months. So how would we be able to kind of accomplish this first step?
Well, we said 4 days, right? We said 4 days to
4 days
go.
from now.
4 days from now to go and have the shared document that describes it. And you know, by using a shared document, you know, somebody goes out there and starts putting down some ideas on that, and then somebody comes along and refines it or said, gee, we need to add this. So Google Docs is perfect because multiple people can edit the document, and you know, we should be able to come up with a good document in a short time. But it's got to be, you know, we're either serious about doing this or we're not. If we're serious about doing this, 4 days is actually could be a long time when you think of the way hackathons work or a lot of other things. People sit together and say, hey, we're going to take a 4-hour block and we're all going to go crazy and we're going to knock this thing out that needs to be knocked out. 4 days is a long time. Unless you're going in and saying, you know, well, gee, today, I don't know, it's a good day. I think I'll go play tennis. And I can always do it tomorrow, and I can always do it tomorrow. And we really need here that this afternoon, the document, I will put a document out there, a shared document. I will share with this committee, everybody who is is part of that committee. And then hopefully you guys are going to start going and fleshing it out. And along that way of fleshing it out, the one thing that's really important is good documents have good structure. So you've got your introduction, you've got your background, you've got your, you know, what is it? You've got, okay, what are the things we've got to pay attention to, the special attention to? You got your summary, you know, there's got to be a structure that and you sort of, just like you get into model UNs and you're building a joint resolution, this is the way it has to work. So I would hope within 2 days, you've already got a quite sophisticated document. And at some point you're ready to go and present your document to the whole club and everybody else, anybody else that we can go and say, would you please comment on this is what we're thinking. Have we missed anything? Do we, have we left questions that created questions in people's minds because we didn't specify how this is supposed to work or that? And so you should have a really good solid document within a week. And we don't have to wait until that's finished to start the document of going and saying, what are all the things that have to be done between now and this? So we at least get that list going that state what needs to be done. And that can be starting to be fleshed out when we say, oh, we need to communicate with folks. What does that mean? Website means getting out there and somebody's going out and putting on Instagram and somebody's got a Twitter going out there all the time and you know, whatever else. And somebody's encouraging people to put TikTok videos out there, you know, whatever. So that within a couple of weeks, you should have not only a good document, but a good to-do list. And the to-do list will already be starting to see here a gravitation of people who say, hey, I can contribute in this particular piece. And I really believe as you get your document finished and as you get the to-do list starting, and now you can go and present that to the rest of our club, and not only to the rest of our club, there are a lot of LinkedIn and My Rotary groups out there that this can be presented to say, hey, who wants to join us here in making this happen? And, you know, we might find that you've already got 100 districts, got somebody in 100 districts already working with you before we even get to the point of saying, now let's go out there and formally send out the message to the district governors. So I think the main thing here is front load as much as possible. Do as much as possible quick, because there's going to be enough things that don't go the way you think they're going to go that you're going to be having to deal with towards the end. You don't want to leave a lot of things to that last minute there. Okay, we're over an hour into this, so I think, you know, my reputation, those of you who have not spent a lot of time with me here, I am not one for that's got a reputation for brevity. But I think here we sort of covered the most of the things, and we sort of got an immediate to-do list for the things for the next week. Does anybody have any questions or things they'd like to add at this point?
I actually do have a question. How many people does this? Do you have more or less an idea of how many you know that want to be actively involved in this initiative?
We've got about a dozen people here, because this is only one of almost a dozen committees that we are trying to do in parallel. This is the first active one that we want to get going, but some people have registered for others. I would say we've got about a dozen people here who have indicated that they really wanted to be on the call this morning. And I believe as soon as we actually have something, Monday, we have our Rotary EClub meeting this Monday. Naman, you get the invitations anywhere. Shivam, would you like to become an associate member of the club here so you get all the communications on that as well? There's no cost to it.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so I'll add you. I mean, I don't like to add anybody unless they say okay. So I will add you onto the mailing lists on that. And so I would like here to have a couple of you or one of you report on what we discussed today and the plan for going forward here at the meeting on Monday. Monday, by the way, is the United Nations International Day of Education. So it is very, very timely what we're doing here. So do I have a couple of one or a couple of you that would be willing to talk on Monday about what we're looking to do and that rough timeline of April and the immediate steps that we're doing here in the next couple of weeks?
What time
Yeah.
is the call, Bill?
The call is 12 noon on Monday, New York time. So that's
That'll be about 10, 11 p.m., 10:30 p.m.
10:30. I think it's 10:30 p.m. in India. Yes.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it for Monday.
Okay. So the more of you. Yes, Omar.
I said I don't mind as well.
Okay, I think it's great.
Can you-
The more of you who can speak a little to this on Monday, because this is the opportunity here, even if a lot of people can't join in necessarily, because in the middle of the day here, for those people who are in school or working here in the US, though most of those can't necessarily join at that time, but we'll be recording that and we can get that recording out. So I think this is a really good opportunity. So the more of you who can speak to what we've discussed here today, that will encourage more people to get engaged.
Sure, Bill. Sounds good.
Okay, great. Then if there's no other comments here, let's watch. I'm gonna put a document in the shared folder. We have a shared folder for this project. And I'm gonna add a document there that is just a document that's sort of a permanent comments, so that anybody can put comments in there about anything. And if we need to, we can sort of move around. Google Docs lets you create threaded discussions. So if somebody goes out there and they make a comment, somebody else can ask a question, or they can comment on the comment or ask a question on the comment, and somebody can come back and answer the question on the comment, and we can build out threaded discussions that way, so that we've got a permanent way that we can actually invite other people to, if they come in and after a week or so and say, hey, wow, I want to be part of this, they're able to go and see what's going on, what's the discussions that are taking place. So we've got a document. I'm going to start here for the document about the concept, the whole initiative, and a document here that's just a document for a discussion here. And if anybody, and I'll start a document for starting to put together the list of what has to all be done. Okay, so I'll start those 3 documents in that, and then I'll post in our committee, and Shivam, I'll be adding you not only to the club, I'll be adding you to the committee as well, so that we can get the show on the road then.
Sure, sounds like a plan.
Okay, great. Well, I would like to thank all of you here for be part of today's meeting and discussion. And let's make this happen. Just imagine here, if we pull this off and have more than 4,000 teams from more than 4,000 schools in every Rotary district around the world, or almost every Rotary district participating, and how much noise that's going to be making between Rotary clubs out to schools in their areas and things like this. We're actually creating a very significant momentum throughout the entire Rotary network. That is a very significant accomplishment, and it will cause, whether we're looking at Rotary International, whether we're looking at individual districts, it's going to cause a lot of people to pay a lot of attention to what we do going forward. Right? Okay. Thank you so much, and especially here, Naman and Shivam. Thank you here. Well, you guys, it's the middle of the day, so you didn't sacrifice that much. Sean or Jerica here joining us at 6 o'clock in the morning is thank you. So again, thank you, everybody. And I do run into a problem here, how to get these recordings and get those posted, but I will find a way to get this meeting, the recording of this meeting, posted up there so that anybody who missed today's meeting will be able to see that. Thank you so much.
Before we close off, I mean, I just wanted to show a document which sort of we created as a timeline, which can, I mean, just an idea for the team. Maybe later when we reach that stage, we can create something like this.
Okay.
So if you can just allow me the screen share.
Yes. Okay. Hold on. Let me see here.
Bill, you can go and make him the host or co-host. That would help.
Okay, good. So make host. You see here now, I'm asking. Okay, I'm just going to make you the overall host right now because I don't see how to make a co-host. So I'll just make you the host for now, and then you can make me the host back again afterwards.
Yep, sure.
Okay, there you go.
So I mean, just a second.
And Shivam, I'm also going to make all of you guys you should all have edit rights to the whole folder. So you can add, if you want to add any documents, you want to add any materials. I think we should put the video up there of perhaps of the finals from that you guys had on Facebook, or at least the links. We'll get all of that out there that we can put in that shared folder.
Sure. I'm just trying to figure it out. There are some, just a second.
In the meantime, while Shivam figures things out, I have a suggestion about the uploading the recordings for people who missed the meeting. If you are not able to upload it on Telegram or on WhatsApp, you can create a shared folder for this committee. I guess you have already created one, and make a certain a file only dedicated for sharing the recordings and upload them there.
Yeah, no, that we actually definitely can do that. We've got that for some of the others, the other things that we have done that. So it should be able to do that. What I've been trying to do in the past is just put them on YouTube in a channel where we have all of those things. But because some of the people have problems downloading large files, I've been trying to figure out ways to reduce it. In some cases, I'm just going to switch to doing audio, only putting the audio out there because that's a lot smaller files for some people in parts of Africa, for example, trying to get them downloaded. Anyway, we'll solve that. So Shivam.
Yep. So, I mean, just to show, I mean, this is somewhat that we created at the very start of the competition. And I mean, as soon as we got our scope in place and the description of the event, we went on to prepare the timeline, and all these dates you see here are random dates that we put in the first proposal. But somehow, when we got started, it all fell in place. So yeah, I mean, as soon as we are ready with all the information, we can create sort of a tentative timeline like this and put in information for that, and we will be all sorted. So this is sort of what we presented to our district governor as the first step. Okay, we are coming up with something like that, and we have a timeline in place. So this is sort of what we created. So it
Absolutely.
has the date at the time. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. And I think as you said, it's important that you have a straw man out there. So just put something out there, put some dates on there. And you know what, if people start to say, well, wait a minute, there's a reason why this date's not good, or maybe it's a holiday or whatever, then you adjust it. But at least you've got something to start building upon. So I think this is really terrific. And please post this into the shared folder.
Sure, Bill.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, everybody. And by the way, the group here for our committee, this Telegram group, we have the ability to have a link. I think I posted the link to some of you here to be able to join that committee. That means you can go out there to people that we've never even talked to before. And if you're talking with them and they're saying, oh, that sounds really interesting, I'd like to be part of that, you can just share with them the link for them to add themselves to the committee. So this gives us an opportunity to grow our committee of people who want to contribute, who want to participate. I will include in the committee a little how-to with what that link is, so you can grab it and use it here with anybody you think. And especially, Leah, you've got you, and we've got Laura and Lily and they're Germans in the Netherlands who are participating, but otherwise you've got a lot of countries in Europe that we don't have any active representatives in. And being able, as soon as we get that description here of the competition, and especially a flyer for the competition, then this can become a great tool for recruiting people that want to help us make it happen, so that we're not waiting down until that, a month goes by before we start reaching out to districts. Okay, great. Well, again, thank you everybody here for participating today. And I'll tell you, I am very, very confident here that we're going to be able to pull this off, and this is going to be a really great show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.